Hello. So welcome to another vlog, a little bit of a different one. We are out in the field, as you can see. I don't know who's actually in this shot, I can't really tell. I think we just got Ned. Pats might be in the back somewhere. Oh yeah, there's Patsy. But eagle-eyed of you may see that there is no Belle. So I just wanted to come onto YouTube and give you guys an update, because I realise if you don't follow me on Instagram, then you won't know a few things that are going on. So if you do, obviously, I mean, if you don't, then come on over. Same name as on here. But yeah, I just wanted to give an update why things are a little bit quieter at our end at the moment. So about 6 weeks ago, I had Belle scoped for ulcers, and unfortunately she was found to have them, basically. It's a bit of a strange scenario in the fact that she doesn't have symptoms as such. So usually when you think of stomach ulcers, symptoms you can like that spring to mind would be sort of girthy, you know, when they're getting really agitated when you try to do the girth up. They might be a bit like aggressive, bitey. They can be really sensitive when you're touching them. They can not go well under saddle, so you might have trouble with transitions, going into canter. They might be really, you know, bucking, bolting, just all sorts of like bad behaviours, which can be a sign of ulcers. Stressy, you know, if they've got vices, sort of wind sucking can be usually quite linked to ulcers. But yeah, there's a lot of those sorts of things that you would think of. Weight loss, or not good to get weight on, is one, and that one I'd be the only, oh my goodness, I would say the only symptom Belle has is that she's always been difficult to get weight on. However, she's been looking really, really good recently, like in the at least a year, I would say, and in particular recently. So that was a bit confusing. So you might be wondering why I then got her scoped. Basically, I had this really small niggle in my head that because of the weight gain, or lack of weight gain, that she was difficult to put weight on, that maybe that was also related. But it does sort of go hand in hand with her breed as well. So, and she's older, so I wasn't like majorly worried about it. And as I say, she's actually been looking really good for a while. We've got a really good sort of feed plan, and so that wasn't too, you know, obviously bigger concern. But when we moved yard, she was really stressed, quite visibly to me anyway. I mean, probably visibly to most people, but she got really just anxious. She had really bad separation anxiety, which I've never really seen from her before. You know, I couldn't tie her up outside the stable if she was on her own without her just going nuts, like just non-stop moving, screaming. She never really was a horse that neighed, or if she did, it would just be like a little whinny. It wasn't like screaming neighs, but she was doing that a lot. And I could just tell, like, these are just not things that she's normally like. So she was clearly stressed. She was quite flighty when you're riding her. So stress is a big cause of ulcers. And that, in my mind, then when I'm now asking more of her from dressage, and sometimes it just felt like just so difficult. And again, weirdly, that has actually got better since we've started having instruction and guidance like that. I would say she's going better than ever in her flat work. But it was, yeah, there were points that I was just like, gosh, I really feel like she's fighting against me almost. Like it just feels harder than it should. So I just wanted to get these tiny little niggles out of my head, because I am asking more of her in the flat in particular. So I knew, okay, it's nothing to do with pain. It's just, you know, this is all new to us both, and we're just trying to like figure it out. And the vets had a sort of discount on as well. So I don't know if all vets do this. I think they probably do, but they had a clinic. So basically they'll have multiple horses come in, and you sort of get a discount for like them doing it as a group, I guess. So that's why I sort of thought I'd go for it. I was like, there's, you know, it's cheaper, just get that niggle out of my head, and then we can just crack on and go from there. So she had that, as I say, about 6 weeks ago, and I genuinely never thought it was even going to come back as having any ulcers, let alone sort of the level she's got. So Ulcers are graded 1 to 4, 1 being the lowest, 4 being at the highest, the worst. And Belle, bless her heart, has grade 3 to 4. There are 2 different areas of the stomach. Obviously, I'm not a vet, but yeah, you've got the upper and the lower, to put it really basically. And yeah, in the upper part, they will give you this grading, and in the lower part, they just tell you that they're there or not. So she has upper, and that's the grade 3 to 4, and then she has them present in the lower part as well. Yeah, so really quite severe, which just makes me feel so like awful. And I just feel, yeah, she's such a stoic little horse, like really, not showing it in all the ways that you would expect, especially for that sort of level. So bless her heart. I mean, I've always believed I was feeding her as if she had ulcers, and I've always, made sure she had food, never didn't have hay in the stable. Always tried to feed her a little bit before we rode, so maybe all these things have just helped that little bit. But with the scoping, you never know how long they've had them, which is difficult. So I don't know if these are long term. I don't know if they've come about from the stress of moving yards. I don't know if maybe she could have had lower grade and then they've just been made worse from moving yards. I will actually just never know that. So as much as I beat myself up about it when I found out, wishing, oh gosh, I should have done this sooner, it's just one of those things. Maybe sooner they wouldn't have been there, I don't know. So, but we found them now, which is the main thing. So she has been on a course of medication for, well, yeah, the last 6 weeks really. So that's been some, like a syringe, like a wormer that she has to have once a day. These are all very like specifically timed in terms of try and have an empty stomach, then you need to wait half an hour, then you give this other part, which is a powder, which she was having twice a day. Then you have to wait another 20 minutes and then you can feed as normal. So they are both to, basically the syringe is to neutralize the acid, essentially, to then give the stomach the ability to heal without that acid obviously aggravating anything. And I believe the powder is essentially the same thing. I think one is a little bit more targeted at the lower hindgut. But as I say, I did read up on all this and then it just goes out my head because my memory is awful. But yes, that is essentially what they're doing. So yeah, we're doing that. And funnily enough, Belle has actually just gone in this evening to be rescoped. So I cannot tell you yet what's going on with that. But I've been meaning to sort of do this video quickly for you guys and I just haven't got around to it. So I do apologise about that. But yes, you can ride whilst they have ulcers. You just have to, make sure that they don't have an empty stomach and things like that. Obviously time it with the medication, but I've just sort of stepped back a little bit from riding. She's been ticking over, like she hacks a little bit, and we've had our dressage lesson every other week. So she has been ticking over, but just not in full work as such. That was just my decision. There wasn't really any need to ride her. She's not a horse that needs to be ridden all the time, and it's very time consuming with this medication as well. It takes an hour just to feed her. So when you're getting here after a 9 to 5, it's pretty late, and then trying to ride as well is almost impossible. So yeah, just the decision I made. As I say, you can ride, it's really not a problem. But yeah, so she's in for her scope this evening. So she's gone back to the vets. She has to go without food for a certain amount of time before the scope, and yeah, rescope, and then we'll just see. Obviously, fingers crossed that it's been successful. I've been stressing out. I've joined some groups on ulcers, and I feel like no one clears them on the first round, but then all the people that I'm seeing seem to be doing different medication plans to us. So I really don't know. Obviously they are fairly high grade, so whether that means it's going to take time, but I really, really, really hope that, I mean, they're gone would be obviously amazing, but at least significantly improved and on the right track. But we're just going to have to see. So I will update you guys as soon as I find out. Well, on Instagram, I will definitely update you as soon as I find out. On here, it may take a little bit longer, but yeah, that's sort of where we're at the moment. Yeah, not a lot else to tell you. I'm going to be doing, or I've started a little ulcer series on my Instagram and my TikTok about what it's like with a horse with ulcers in terms of just the journey really, because I feel like I don't see many people talk about it. Like I feel like ulcers are talked about more, like people are more aware of them, but I just don't really feel like I see the average person sort of their day-to-day what it means when you've got horse ulcers, what the medication plans like, all that stuff. So yeah, doing that, learning as we go along. Had to redo her feed program really. As I mentioned, always fed how I believed I was for a horse with ulcers, but God, it's wound me up a little bit, because there are pretty much every brand, and it's not even specific to one, have ulcer friendly feeds, and they have the beta stamp saying that they're suited to horses with ulcers, and they're not. Like, you'll do your research, obviously starch sugar is really the big ones that you're wanting to avoid, and they're still high in that, like higher than the percentage you'd want really, because you're looking, basically it's based on the body weight of your horse, and then that you figure out the percentage on that. And so I think that just what makes it so difficult for people to try and feed in a way that is, is good for your horse, and you think you're doing the right thing and you might not be. And don't get me wrong, what I've been feeding is better than other stuff, but it still, I've realised, could be a lot better. But yeah, so that's where we're at. I want to keep this vlog quite short because it is just me talking, and I know that's not very interesting. I don't even think there's a horse in this view anymore, in the distance, but yeah, it's not super interesting just hearing me waffle on. But yeah, that's where we're at. So yeah, bit of a weird one. We've had some really great outings recently. As I say, she's just been going fantastically, but I'm so glad we found them, and I really, it's going to sound weird, I'm looking forward to getting her clear and seeing how she feels. And I hope, potentially in the dressage maybe where I see it the most, but I hope I do feel more comfortable. Obviously, from a selfish point of view, just if dressage is easier, that would be fantastic. But I would love to be able to know that, like, she's feeling better in herself, because it is a bit tricky when she doesn't have those obvious signs and symptoms. So, but thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry this has been a bit waffly. I'll probably have to try and cut it down a little bit for you in the editing. But that's it. Yeah, so please do follow on my Instagram. As I said, it's called that.eventing as well, if you don't already. If you want more regular updates, with I've been a bit rubbish on there as well, I'm not gonna lie. But the full big, chats like this are always going to be on YouTube. If you are going through this situation, you've had a horse with ulcers, I would love to hear your stories and all of that in the comments. And if, like, you can make this a little space for people that have questions and want to talk about it, you might wonder or have a little niggle thinking about your horse potentially having ulcers. So many do. I think the stats are crazy. I think X-race horses about 80%. Leisure horses, I think it's up to about 60% have them. So it's really nothing to be like ashamed of as such. It is just one of those things. So yeah, please get yourselves in the comments, and definitely I will answer anything you might want to know if you've got any questions. But otherwise, as I said already, thank you so much for watching, and I will be seeing you not so distant future with Hicksid. So yeah, much love, guys. Bye.